Alrighty, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the internet? I am so pumped, so excited to come back and do this Leadership Academy, man. It's been a while, since I did this. I've been telling myself I'm going to sit down and just do this. I'm going to sit down and just do this until finally I told myself, you know what, man, let's just jump into this and do this, and hopefully through this I'll bring back the intensity of doing this. So today I want to review a book that I've really enjoyed over the last 2 months, and it's called What It Takes. It's called What It Takes by Charles D. Ellis. And man, I really did enjoy this book. It was such a fascinating read. It was just so amazing, just like to think about it and just to think about the words, to think about the ideas in this book. What It Takes. It's called What It Takes: 7 Secrets of Success from the World's Greatest Professional Firms by Charles D. Ellis. So I did look up Mr. Charles D. Ellis. He's a founder and a associate at his firm called Greenwich Associates. And I think he's also a trader and he does trading. He has a bunch of other books, maybe 7 other books. I was scouring YouTube for reviews of this book, and I never actually found some on YouTube. It was so fascinating. I mean, just the way this book influenced me, I just wondered a lot. Why have I not? Like, why doesn't it have a lot of reviews? So yeah, so let's get into this book. So the model of the way I do usually is I made a bunch of highlights when I was reading the book. I started reading books digitally, so all the books that I read, I do read digitally, and then oftentimes I come back and I look at the highlights that I saved and which ones made an impression on me, and I try to talk through it in these videos. So this highlight says it is a blueprint for creating, building, and sustaining great organizations of all kinds. Yeah, so I just immediately through this book, he's telling you that the reason why he wrote this book, so that you could see how to create, build, and sustain great organizations of all kinds. And this is something I was actually very interested in, and you will see why this book has been profound to me, and you'll see this why this book has been important to me in this season. Um, Here still in the opening pages, he said Olympic athletes supply a good simile when they see themselves as obviously separate. He's a pole vaulter, she's a swimmer, he's a downhill skier, and I ran the 440. The gold medalists are essentially the same: superb athletes with unusual heart and lung capacity and in great physical condition. They are highly disciplined, voracious competitors willing to spend unconscionable hours mastering every technique of the event. I just thought that was very cool to consider that medalists anywhere are the same. And I think this is a thought that I've had um, just like in my pursuit of life, and thinking that like high achievers are high achievers regardless of whether they're photographers or they're software developers or just like they're actors. You can see like the thing, the soul of a high achiever just coming through wherever they are. And I think this is so true. And if you live a little, you would also think that it is true. Here, professional firms are living organisms. None is assured of enduring success. They must always adapt. And the word professional firms is important, of which we shall come back and talk about. I think they talk a little bit about what it means to be a professional firm. Like in the beginning chapters, it says 50 years ago, Arthur Anderson and Company was considered the finest professional firm in the world. Period. It was the best major auditor and leader in using computers. But then its leaders, standards, and organizational structure changed, and near-term profitability became paramount. Anderson's commitment to professional excellence got degraded. What was that? Got degraded in a long series of initially reversible stages until its essential culture had been destroyed from within. I just looked up Arthur Anderson and I realized they were the auditing firm behind Enron, and you know the Enron scandal. So I think they really lost cred during the Enron thing, and maybe even through it all. One thing about this book, I'm just going to say, it had a lot of name drops, and maybe that's why this book hasn't been very famous. This book tasks you to really try and start finding out who are these people that the author is talking about, what are these companies that the author is talking about. And I realized I started getting value when I started really now trying to find out now who are these people, like these biographies, these stories about these people, these leaders, who are they? And so yeah, they sustain excellence over several generations of leaders who, knowing how many formerly leading firms have faded or fallen, are wisely on high alert for their known unknowns and their own misperceptions. One of the most valuable qualities of a great firm is superior capacity to see itself objectively and to learn and change on multiple levels, and thus to continuously improve. Man, I would say, well, one of the things maybe I'd like to say is I've thought a lot about the big farms in the world. Uh, it's not hard for you to think about it. It's easy for you to think about the big farms in the world, the McKinseys, the PwC, and that's in accounting and auditing, in management, Bain, in marketing, or um there's like a bunch, Ogilvy or Ogilvy. I don't know. And there's a bunch of them in the whole spectrum of things. I remember 2 years ago, I watched Mad Men, and Mad Men is an amazing series about, like the men who invented advertising back in the 60s in America. An amazing, amazing, amazing series. Can give you a lot to think about. I remember just really thinking about, like, so people have been creating creative and marketing content like since the newspaper was invented and even earlier before, and there have been farms that have been doing this, and I just started really wondering how come there are farms and creative businesses that have spanned generations, literally spanned years and years and years, and spanned multiple geographies. And I always just wondered how come, like, these organizations that are in the US that are also here in Kenya. And I used to wonder a lot about that. So I just had a blackout, and that sucks. Okay. So one of the most valuable qualities of a great firm is superior capacity to see itself. Yeah, so I think I've read that. Now this man, his name is Bauer, Marvin Bauer, and he was the CEO of McKinsey. Uh, but he's been really talked about in this book as one of those leaders. And they mentioned him a lot, so I had to look up who this man really is. So let's get into this. Chapter one, and they're talking about mission and a grand vision and like a commitment to professionalism. No, there's something wrong with the slide. The elderly hunched man was now almost jogging up the middle aisle, between row after row of chairs that filled the meeting room. We are not a business. We are a professional firm. We have a professional system, but never a business system. Well, I remember when I read this, I pondered a little bit about that. Just because, and I've talked about this on my blog, just because just before I came into this idea of like a professional system and professional services, I never knew you could differentiate these two businesses. And I was coming from like reading a lot of systematization books. I had been reading the E-Myth Revisited, Work the System, the Checklist Manifesto, and all these books that try and put you into like a systematization of things. And that's how I thought about business, and that's how I thought about, for example, I thought about the franchise model. How can you franchise a thing? I even thought if you're going to have like a marketing firm, you want to have like a bunch of systems that people adapt and everything. And then they just talk about and you're going to see this during this review, that in a professional service, they do not focus on franchising the business, on systematizing the business. However, they focus on hiring really, really, really smart talent, like these really, really smart people. And these people work to provide really, really solid value for their clients. And so, what you focus on if you have a professional system instead of like business system, is you focus on people, and you're going to see this. And so this is the first place this idea comes up, and I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. This is very interesting. And I made a comment. This is commitment by Bauer to look at McKinsey as a professional service and not a business. And you can start to see just like the author bringing this idea up pretty early in the book, and you start interfacing with these ideas of a professional service versus a business system very, very early, and you're going to see this just like this idea build up throughout the chapters. So that's very important. And inspiring long-term purpose. So this belief in the importance of serving clients well led naturally to the view that each client is a client of the whole firm, not just of an individual consultant, and so must have full access to all the firm's resources. I remember thinking, now that I have the concept that consultants or different professionals could have their own clients, and what are these firms' resources? Firms' resources could be designers, computers, researchers, or just like a whole bunch of support staff that have been hired by the firm. Also, just it made a lot of sense having watched also like a lot of the series I talked about, Mad Men. They had a huge office with a lot of support staff and a few like rockstar creatives, and they would really be focusing on, for example, just like creating value for their clients. But there's a lot of support um, that they need that could go into also this client, so they can have full access to firms resources. I remember just thinking about this is interesting because now that means if I build, say, like a professional service firm, right, and our professional service firm grows, and we have a bunch of support people, designers, video people, copywriters, a bunch of really, really creative people and not so creative people, finance people, and everything, and researchers and writers and all that. When I have an individual consultant, they can really serve their clients to the best possible, um, I guess, ability, because they can have full access to all the farm's resources, and this just makes us a farm, and it makes the partnership so much better. And I really, really liked that idea. So he insisted that consulting should be recognized as a profession and as a career. Training would be rigorous and continuous. This is also another idea that he builds a lot in this book, that so consulting is actually a real profession and it's a real career, and the training is going to be rigorous and continuous throughout your career. All right, so here's another one, another quote, another highlight during the process of reading the book. When others proposed a marketing brochure for the farm, Bauer's first impulse was to condemn the idea as unprofessional. However, he changed to a hearty agreement when he saw that the creating the brochure with himself leading the process could be an effective device for getting internal agreement on values even before an external distribution. The result was a 42-page hardcover booklet titled Supplementing Successful Management. Bauer made sure it explicitly committed McKinsey to becoming a truly professional firm. Wow, look at that commitment to professionalism. Like, we are not even going to have a brochure because we're not a business. Businesses have brochures, but we are a professional firm. Oh, but then I guess we could create a brochure if we're going to come up with a document that really, really talks about who we are. That was so cool. So I wrote here a comment: creating any type of company communication is a great way to get internal agreement on the values. So I remember thinking, like, what would be a modern version of this idea? And this is interesting. So I looked it up. I looked this up, and I want to share this insight. So I went on this spree of checking out how, like, big consulting firms' websites look like. And bro, they look nothing like the type of websites I'm used to looking at. They look nothing as, like a normal a brochure website will tell you that would start like with a big like, I don't know, call to action, and it will make you like buy the product or whatever. I think you know what I mean. But then I was looking at the websites of these professional services firms, accounting firms. I looked at Bain, I looked at McKinsey, and I looked at like a bunch of them, and all of them have like an expert intonation. They share books, they share thoughts, they share deep learnings and articles and white papers. And the way it's designed, it's not designed to sell. It was very interesting when I noticed this, and I was like, wow, so this is like this ideal is being um extended. This idea of a professional service firm is being extended, and such that these big organizations um, do not show themselves just like us, as like law firms or like accounting firms, but real as expert thought leaders. And I thought that was so profound. And this is something I'd like also to do for myself, and even for like the business that I'm running for Croc Studio. How can I now start changing it? Our language, our presentation, to move from business, from more commercial and transaction, to more relational and professional, right? And that's another thing. I don't know if it's captured anywhere in the book, but one of the biggest man, should I talk about this? Just wait, let me just say this. When I was reading through this book and thinking about professionalism especially, I just started seeing how, through like the words and the teachings in the book, a professional service is more relational. And so this people are building relationships with their clients such that they're coming into partner, and they're creating such massive value for their clients that ends up like increasing their bottom lines. Okay. But a business, on the other hand, is very transactional, and people are just coming to it and just throwing a bunch of money, and like it's transactional. But I learned that professional service is more relational than transactional. Um, Another quote: the quest for professionalism in a field where that had not been the norm led to two allied goals: help clients make substantial, long lasting, positive improvements in their performance, and build a great firm that can develop, excite. And I think I need to like to cut this and take it up there, but I don't know how we're going to do it. So yeah, that was a quote I made, the same quote. So yeah, so they talk about this quest for professionalism, and in a field where there was no professional services. So it was to help clients make substantial long-term positive improvements in their performance, and then to build a great firm that can attract, develop, and excite and retain exceptional people. I just thought that was so profound, because this is also not how I used to think. This is legit not how I used to think before, just before reading this book, and that's why I think this book is so profound to me in this season of my life while I'm building my business. Is like, no, you want to really build a firm that can attract and develop and excite some exceptional people who can work on some exceptional products. And I think when you do this, you end up working on even big ideas that are not just bespoke. And it challenges you to start thinking of your business and like of your things that you're involved in a much grander way. Okay. So the strongest. So I guess I should just like skip. Um, and so you're going to see there's Capital, and there's Mayo Clinic, and then there's Cravath. And there's like maybe 5 or 6 organizations that he uses as a case study through this thing. If we excel at anything, it is in our capacity for translating idealism into action. This was, I think, Dr. Mayo Clinic, one of the doctors, talking about one of the things they excel is translating idealism into action. I really pondered about this a lot, and I had never. This book is a beautiful invitation into building organizations and infusing life into organizations, and just like hearing and looking at stories of other organizations, how they've been built and how they've accepted their identity and taken their identity, gives you a good framework to start thinking about like how you can do that for yourself. So, for example, here, translating idealism into action was very profound for me because I started thinking, if I have these ideals that I believe in, and you're going to see this in the culture section of the book, you can translate that into action. If you believe in professionalism, you start acting in a way that shows that you're professional. If you believe in, I don't know, quality, you start acting in a way that you translate quality into action. So profound. If you believe in innovation, you start acting in a way that is very innovative in how you do things, in like how you design your organization, and every single thing just follows from that on. I really really love that quote, and it means so many things to me on so many different levels, man. Because I've just like really pondered on these ideas, and I was thinking, even when you have ideals, these ideals can go into how your office looks like, how your organizational structure looks like. And you can say maybe we are very, I don't know, modern, or we are very, I don't know, but you could translate these idealistic elements into this really tangible things, and I really love that about this book. And then here they emphasize that our clients' interest always comes first, and you will see this throughout the book. That professional services, clients' interest always comes first. This goes on to feed with my other thinking of a customer first methodology, and I'm just starting to see a customer first methodology in every single new book that I'm reading, or wherever I am in my life right now. And I'm just so curious, why was I never so focused on customer first? Maybe because I never had like a bunch of customers in the early days, and a lot of these things was very idealistic. But now I can see this customer first approach. And and this is such a packed statement. When your client's interest always comes first, that means you have to study their business. You have to like study how you can, like just active account management, the kind of value that you can bring for them, for a fee or for free. And then our assets are people, capital, and reputation. Beautiful, beautiful 3 words. Things I have never actually thought about. That when just our assets are people, like people could be like assets, and these firms out here are proud of the people that they have, and then proud of the capital that they have amassed, and they're proud of the reputation that they have. As such, so fascinating. We take great pride in the professional quality of our work. This also another quote that really also influenced me. Um, every great farm has differentiated itself from other strong farms in its profession by committing itself to a challenging and inspiring purpose with compelling value for its professionals and clients. This goes back to this idea of like turning ideals into action. That strong farms just like have this inspiring purpose, and like they turn that back to their professional and to their clients, and they really really stand by that. I really really enjoyed that. Here, so this is James Mackenzie, Mark Mackenzie. This part wasn't actually in the book. This part is in the notes that the author um puts together from chapter one. So how this book is designed, it's a lot like a study. So every chapter has like a bunch of references in notes. And I didn't find it enjoyable at first reading the notes, but when I came back and I was looking at some of the notes and his references, I saw this thing, how Mackenzie actually started. and James McKinsey so fast that business managers needed accurate, timely information and good advice on the techniques of management, and that's how he started his management consultancy firm. Now look at these few ideas. So he had um, he had three ideas. He had three things that he wanted. Um, he persistently pursued all three to get professional exposure. Mackenzie ate half of his breakfasts, all his lunches, and a third of his dinners with either clients or prospects. Man, I was thinking, I really did thinking about this. It's so fascinating. This man legit had um four breakfasts, all his lunch, like seven lunches, in like three dinners with either a client or a prospect throughout his professional life. Do you know how many people you can meet if you're meet? So let's just assume those are 14 people. Just like let's just assume, right? Let's just assume that's 14 meetings in you're doing in a week. Do you know how crazy the compounding effect for like meeting 14 people in a week is? When I had and just thought about this relentless connection, I was so mind blown. And this is like in the 20s and 30s in the 20th century. It's crazy. After the war, Mackenzie decided he will need three factors to succeed as a professional: respectability, professional exposure, and recognized competence in an area of interest to managers. Respectability, professional exposure, and recognized competence in an area of interest to managers. And so look at what he did. So in 1919, McKinsey wrote the first of his 10 books, Bookkeeping and Accounting. It presented accounting as an analytical tool needed to manage all the different parts of his business organization and introduced the innovative budgeting process we now call management by objectives. Like this dude legit introduced this concept called managing by objectives back in 1919. Like this, like some of these people that we are reading in these books are the fathers of modern management. These are the people we've been reading in management schools without like a clear understanding where they worked and where they're from. And I think so. Maybe this is a tangent. Um, what this book started doing for me, and maybe a few other books coming to this, has been helping me explore, say, like the history of management, history of taxation, just like history in general, and where did these ideas come from. And I realized these are just people who are working in industry and were also like professionals and were also academics, and they helped, like, so for example, people like I was just looking at Sloan, who was the manager of General Motors, and he's considered one of the fathers of management. He also has a whole school called Sloan School of Management in MIT, and I was looking at his life and how he influenced just like management generally. I was thinking about people like Peter Drucker, who he's considered like one of the biggest thinkers of management and like management theory like in this generation. And I was looking at his story, how he came into America, and I just started finding it very, very fascinating that these are the people who've been taught in schools, been taught in like management classes and management books, but we never get an opportunity to know who these people are. So we never get to have context for how they came into these ideas. And I feel like that is such a like a terrible thing with the current education system or whatever, that they just teach you what is management, and then they quote this quote from Drucker, and they will quote this quote from Sloan, and they would move on. And so you need to remember that so that you can spit that back to your lecturer, so he can give you a bunch of marks and everything. Very, very crazy. But I guess that's undergraduate for you. Um, so he wrote these books. He built his professional reputation through speeches and service to such organizations as the American Management Association. So see how, he just like he put himself in such a path for like professional reputation. this is something I started even exploring for myself. I'm like, okay, so how can I get on a path, like, of professional reputation? And this is one of those ways. Mark McKinsey taught powerful lessons by example: devotion to work and the farm, the importance of earning a reputation through writing and speaking, as two, reaching out to clients and prospects for luncheons and dinners, that's three, attracting and training young men, four, candidly telling associates about their mistakes and how they could improve, five, and then a total lack of interest in repetitive routine work over standardized product nature when time could. And therefore, I think so he really like refused the repetitive routine work, and I think passed it over to this young man. Fascinating way to work. I think it feeds a lot of my neediness to climb, like a metaphorical career ladder, where now you're getting better and you're having other people do the things that you were doing at some point in your life. And like when I see someone else already had like that structure that they built into their lives, I'm like, cool, man, that's something I could totally I want, like, for my career and for my growth and everything. So this was very, very, very profound. And this is not even like legit in chapter one; it's somewhere down in the notes in chapter one. Fascinating book. So the next thing, so we the first chapter was like the commitment to professionalism, and then the next chapter, I think it's chapter two or chapter three, they talk about culture. And in culture is going to expound a lot on those ideas of turning idealism into action, and you're going to see how they turn idealism into action through culture. It was such a profound read. This idea of culture made me really start thinking about what is the culture that I may want to have in my organization, or the organization that I'm currently involved in. What is the culture that is there? Because culture, like, could be explicit or just could be implied, and you could find it. You're going to find culture exists, like whether you think it does or not. Like, culture exists, and it's in how people act, it's in how people do, and you're going to see that. So I skipped a bunch of things. um So maybe just let me just read this. A vibrant culture is expressed in consistent standards of behavior and in decisions made every day by many different people in many different situations. And so you can start to see, like whatever I was saying, the culture exists. Always culture exists. So a sustained commitment to excellence, particularly in ethics, attracts, keeps, and motivates exceptionally talented people who care intensely about achieving professional excellence at a level other professionals admire. Sustained commitment to excellence. This was nice. So each great firm's culture takes abstract concepts down to specific actions and connects specific tasks to the organization's inspiring mission. Man, I just started pondering again about these fascinating ideas that each culture takes these abstract concepts down to specific actions. And, because we say we are a professional firm that values high quality, they take and you can start to see quality, high quality, high requirement of quality. You can start to see it now seeping down into the organization, and even just these tasks, you can start to see it look like the mission. It was so beautiful. I wrote here the importance of turning idealism into action. I really did ponder a lot about this culture thing. I think, as a business owner, and just someone like building businesses, it's so important to just start thinking about culture and trying to see where this is going to take you. It's so much fun. So a firm that celebrates its core values externally is often signaling its weaknesses, while celebrating core values internally is an important way to clarify what is or not accepted. I really enjoyed that part. It gave me the impression that there's a lot that happens internally that isn't for other people, it's not for external people. It's easy now, when you're building or when you get started building an organization, especially in this age of social media and this age of showing who you are, it's so easy to want to have external talking points, external views, and pictures of you working, videos of, and I get it. I have those desires so many times, but when you celebrate your core values externally, you're signaling your weaknesses. What you need to do is have the balls and the stamina to celebrate these core values internally. And just to clarify what is accepted or not accepted. And so this is like an invitation to shift a lot of the celebration of your values to internal. So internal communications and internal meetings, and just so that people are very aware of who you are internally. Uh and who you are externally. I really, really enjoy this, and I want, for example, just to embed this into my life, right now. Devotion to professionalism. If not pursued relentlessly, will inevitably drift and fade down to commercialism. Yeah, man. So you want to be very professional, and not just to seek profitability. And I keep thinking these are very profound ideas and such a strange way of thinking that is just not common to me at all, at all. I've never thought about this. I've always thought, man, just make a bunch of money, make the most money you could ever make. But this book starts teaching you, no, 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 no. If you're a professional services firm, you want to devote to professionalism. That's why the great firms, to stay great, must devote so much time and talent to recruiting, training, and developing their people, and to reinforcing high standards. And while leadership at all levels is so important to ensuring consistency in how we do things around here. So it really sounds so disciplinarian and high schooly, and all those things that I've always kind of disliked. I just feel I was in campus, those schools, I have a bunch of rules and how we do things here. But then you start seeing the number one way to create a culture of excellence is to have a commitment to some type of excellence, and a commitment to some type of standards, and a commitment to some type of consistency. So people just don't act the way they act. People have to act according to how we act here. This shows the stamina in ethics and leadership from the people who even build these types of organizations. They're very idealistic, they're very, I guess, boring, how you can think. But then isn't it funny that the kind of people who are very committed to exceptionalness and are the same type of people who have massive and huge results in their work? Then doesn't it then show that if you want to become the kind of people who build organizations that are going to thrive and last, you're going to be also those kinds of people. You're just going to be those kinds of people. I just don't see any other way around it. And the detest for this type of structure is not even invited. And I think I just started processing that right now. I've never actually I've thought about it actively when I was reading the book. So I need to invite these ideas of reinforcing high standards. That was nice. I had thought the only thing I was going to talk about here is the training part, the recruiting and the training part. But when you recruit, you train, you also have to reinforce the standards, and that's fascinating to me. Look at this. Young firms often make crucial mistakes because given their current obscurity, they feel they have to compromise on the quality of people they hire now, hoping they can somehow upgrade later. History shows that firms that settle never get above second tier. Man, so one of the reasons this, especially this CI, this idea is so huge and it's starting to affect me is because in the last few months, I was watching Chris, Steve Jobs, or let's say Chris Dell. I was watching Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs said in one of his talks that he's always found if you hire the best people, um, you can get to do really, really amazing work if you hire the best people. And if you can't find the best people, then maybe you just like cost. And so I had that in maybe like 4 or 5 of his videos. And then later on, I was listening to this talk on microconf. Microconf is a conference for people who do SaaS type of businesses, like who would write software that they sell on the internet. And then this guy who has a service that sells something on WordPress. I don't know, maybe like something on WordPress. He was saying that leaders like CEOs shouldn't go and work on like, I don't know, like pay per click or something, or SEO, because when they're starting as a very, very shitty low SEO person, and they will never perform to the level of the highest, best performing SEO person. So what this CEO was saying, that CEOs should just go ahead and hire like this really, really solid SEO person who would bring this firm into like very, very high SEO standards. So I just remember thinking about the thing. I was like, okay, it makes a lot of sense if you are a founder or if you're a business owner to just really try and find the best people. Okay. And it just started being like an insight. I was like, okay, fine, fine. I think that it makes sense to me, and this is how maybe I need to start designing my life. So then I come into this book, and it says that when you compromise on the quality of people you hire now, and just think, let me just get like really trashy people I'm going to upgrade later, you might never get above second tier. Ah, it's just a crazy thing. It makes you want to fire all your like and not be patient with all your people. Okay, one day how these people even patient with low performing people? Do they just fire them on the spot? Do they? I don't know, but it's fascinating to ponder on. It's fascinating to consider. In the perpetual war for talent, the best firms never settle. All this young, no, no, let me just skip. Almost 60 years ago, Marvin Bauer impressed upon his McKinsey colleagues that the firm's real competition was not for clients or specific projects much as it would vigorously compete for both, but for talented, committed people. Look at that. Look at that idea of, of talent coming. Money motivates, of course, and for many years, Goldman Sachs has paid more than other firms to people who develop rapidly and perform unusually well. So while you read this, you're just going to see how they've created such a process to attract some of the best and to pay them so vigorously well that like only the top tier people are going um to make it into these farms. Makes you wonder if, like, for example, I don't, maybe I am, but I've always wondered if I'm a top tier, like, competitive individual, or just like I'm a bottom of the barrel type person. But you could see this when they say that the farm strives to attract, develop, excite, and motivate and retain exceptional people. It's so fascinating. Experience can matter, but analytical capability matters much more because anyone can learn, but nobody can get smart. I remember thinking about this and just smiling to myself, like, such a damn fool. Because I don't know, like, nobody can get smarter, so yeah. And then it continues just talking about this people thing, about this best people thing. Say very strong people are not afraid of competition and look hard for the very best people. And I think Steve Jobs said this also in one of his talks. Says A players hire A players and B players hire C players. And I think that's a little bit crazy, man. And I just take this. And then weak people recruit still weaker people, apparently to increase their own stature by lowering the firm's average. Man, that's Steve Jobs. A player hire A players. Just remember really pondering a lot about that. What does that mean? And do you know, prior to prior to this, prior to this type of thinking, one of the ideas um, that you get, say even just from from the book, the E-Myth, they say like how you hire for a space, you walk into a space and then you build, for example, like you build the capacity in that space. For example, you hire sales, you work as a sales, maybe a manager, and then you build the capacity of the sales team, and then now you hire to replace yourself, and you keep like working through into that space. But then this idea here is so different, just like you hire the smartest. Right. So, man, so I have to go, and I'm gonna make this part one, and I'll be back to finish with part two, just because duty calls, and yeah.